Right, hello there guys. I'm here to show you how to fly in this game. Now I don't mean using your autopilot all the time. No, stop that. That's not how I want you to fly. Look, let's try using the autopilot all the time. So let's accelerate to my cruising speed of 75 meters per second and let's try using it. Look, you even can't fly that fast. You can't even dodge things that efficiently and it wastes a whole bunch of fuel, right? What you want to do is fly manual, right? No problem. Like avoiding like that, keeping your momentum. Think about the scientific way of flying. Like if you've ever played Kerbal Space Program, you never fly the way that wastes most momentum. What you do is you do small adjustments, right? And you keep your momentum as much as possible and don't waste fuel, right? We see an asteroid on our way. What are we going to do? So if the asteroid on our way is just slightly to our side, right? Okay, I'm going to go through the basics right now, okay? So let's say, let's diverge from our course. So this asteroid right now is on our way, but it's just slightly. So what we can do is we can dodge it just like this by using our side thrusters, right? But we are now moving sideways. We're no longer going forward, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to thrust back to counteract that side momentum, right? But we want also to keep tabs on which angle our side is at. Like if I'm trying to dodge in at this angle, I will also accelerate myself as I go to the side. If I dodge at this angle, I will also accelerate, right? Not much dodge. But right now, that asteroid is just heading right for us. What I do, main engine. Always, if you want to dodge something quickly, you always use your main engine. And why is that? I'm not sure. Right here we can't see that, but my main engine has 1100 power of thrust, right? So right now we see a window here that we can get through. Right now, just pulsing our thrust, pulsing it, pulsing. Don't be warned by that alarm, no problem. Right now, this is a problem. So I brake with my main engine, right? And then I use the momentum to drift by the asteroids, right? That's what you want. You don't want to constantly waste your momentum on autopilot, right? This is no problem. Just stay with it. Stay with your momentum and just keep using that main thruster if you really need to dodge something, like something's big is here. So we want to brake a little bit so that we will have time to react, right? So right now we're about 12 kilometers down in the ring, so we want to take it a little bit more slow. Don't go over 60, maybe 50 if you're new, but just use your momentum. Use the power that is your main thruster, right? Just dodging this, it's no problem at all. And then use it to correct yourself back to your main trajectory. And look at our momentum right now, velocity 55 meters a second. That's because we don't waste our momentum. And we use so little fuel. We have only used around 2 tons of fuel right now. That is nothing compared to how much you would waste by using the autopilot, right? Just keep tabs. Just think to drift, not to really fly that much, but to drift. And right now, we're coming straight for that asteroid, so we want to curve like this. We have curved around the asteroid without losing too much momentum and using too much fuel. I think we only used around 200 kilograms of fuel on that. And right now, when we need a big adjustment, right, we want to do something like that. And now that we've found like a good spot, right, we brake here and we go like right now. I've wasted a lot of my momentum because what I should have done, let me demonstrate. So we have a different trajectory to this little nugget here. What do? We want to curve into it, right, like this. But right now it's heading for a rock, so the most efficient thing to do here is not to go straight forward, but to go around it, right? Curve your momentum just like this. Just keep curving it. Now is the time when you use the autopilot, right? And now we can use our main engine, gobble up that nugget, and in it is. Right? And now we just want to flip ourselves around so that nugget goes back into our little machine here and just process it real quick for us, and it's done that. Very nice. So just keep this in mind whenever you fly, to use your momentum. Do it manually. Don't constantly like use autopilot. Look at how much it wastes. It constantly keeps readjusting with thrusters and just wasting all of that fuel. Learn to fly manual and you will find the real fun in this game. And instead of like constantly just relying on automatic piloting. Okay, so what do you do in this case, right? This is a difficult one because you can't really use your autopilot that much, right? So let's align ourselves, and instead of just going with autopilot, we tap W to stop wasting our fuel constantly, and we just drift towards it. Alright? Just a little bit slower. Then we close the hatch. Right now it was perfectly online, but usually it's not like that. So you want to close your hatch to really lock it in there, and then you want to stop, and then you readjust your positioning just a little bit. Right now I have very powerful thrusters, so that's a little bit hard to do manually, but you just close and open it again manually, and you will gobble that thing up like it was nothing. Okay, so this is like just to teach yourself to fly like this. Just try to fly like this, like sideways, and just keep yourself aligned. Watch your ship. That's why you have that military grade autopilot, because it will warn you, like right now, right? So you just use your side thrusters just a little bit. That's all you need. You're in space. This isn't a car where you need to just drag on the handbrake, you know, and just crash into it. You just need that little tap of the force to just completely avoid the obstacle, like it was never there. So just keep this in mind, guys. I know it was short and a little bit offensive, but it's just so many people that lose the real fun of this game, I think, that just don't watch their instruments, don't watch their acceleration, their speed, and all of that. It's also okay to use the autopilot to stop, but just look how much fuel is being wasted right now, right? Like, let's give us a little bit of momentum here. And it's just wasting your fuel. Let's do that again so you will see, right? Look at that. It's just ticking down for no reason. I'm not even touching anything. But if you're able, you don't, usually you don't really need to stop all the way. So you just, like, let's say we're heading off to a station right now, okay? So this is our cruising speed. We turn our main engine, so we brake as efficiently and as fast as possible. We tap W and shift at the same time, right? Because that nets us a lot of force. And now we're just barely moving. So just keep watching your momentum, right? And just keep tapping that a little bit, and now we're almost completely still. So now you can tap X to stop. That's all you need. You don't need anything more. And you barely used absolutely any fuel for that. So now we can go back to our station. I need to visit this one because I don't want to lose it. But this is like the essential of this game, is to learn to fly manual. Stay in those outer ring zone here and just practice your flying, because you will then never need really fuel. Especially if you have like a fade station nearby, then you can just simply go over here and dock with it and refuel yourself. Okay, so right now, so you're in space right now. Even though I discovered that the other way was shorter, I know that I would have wasted a lot more momentum. And now we're just keeping our momentum, right? So this is how we do it. We just keep our momentum, then we turn for our docking sequence, and then we want to, oh, of course there had to be a rock on the way. Just help it out a little bit, and then perfectly you're back in place and you've drifted around it, so you hadn't wasted all that material. Jesus Christ, stop freaking adjusting it. Okay? So this is what it's all about. Like, it's so fun doing this, and I think people are really missing out when they're not using this technique here. And just do manual flying. Don't use that autopilot. Don't like try to do something that's challenging, because that's what's fun in the games, right? And don't be afraid of it. Like if maybe we'll discover some combat right now. Let me turn on my mass drivers. Okay, so let's see this guy here. So this is another moment when it's okay to use your autopilot just to adjust, but it's going to waste a lot of fuel if you just keep adjusting. So right now we don't want to get on this guy's bad side, so we want to stay behind him. Oh, okay, he wasn't very offensive, but okay, but like this is also not a problem. If I want to go here, right, I can just do something like this, and I'm not using any autopilot whatsoever, and I'm comfortable with it. Like until you're comfortable doing something like this, just stay in those shallow rings and keep practicing, because your manual flying will really come into play here. So right now I see what maneuver I need to do, and I'm just already aligned and prepared myself, right? And this is like the most important thing about this game, is like keep using your momentum and do it without crashing, preferably, right? And it makes the game a little bit harder. Okay, so right now we're getting real tight up here. Oops. Yeah, so right now I've crashed, but I've learned something. Now I learned that I need to learn my directional keys, which is probably the hardest part, is to learn the left and right as you flip around, right? Left and right. Also, the screeching sound that you hear when you do this is the G-forces just trying to pull your ship apart, and if you spin too fast, it will start to really, you know, try to smash your ship. So that's something to keep in mind too. But like, don't be afraid of it. Just keep doing it, and you will be good. And think of that momentum that I was talking about, right? So we want to break ourselves down and then drift into it, right? Keep using our directional thrusters and then the main engine. And now we want to fire in that direction there and go with the main thruster, right? Just keep doing this. And it's much faster than using the autopilot, also a lot more satisfying, right? So yeah, that's basically all that I would have to say. And that little crash that we did, so I have a lot of wear on my engines, but it did no damage because we were actively flying slow. So if you're about to crash, the best thing to do is just fire your main engine and W at the same time, so that you get the maximum stopping power that you possibly are able to do. Okay, so let's head back to our home station, and that's it. That's all I had to show you. I'm gonna give you a little bit of tips, like on what I think are good maneuvering engines to use, so that you're able to maneuver at a good speed. And what I find works best for me is using variable thrusters, because variable thrusters, they basically uh, well, they let your autopilot vary the thrust instead of always having 100% output, right? So let's go in here and I'll show you here. Also, another tip for combat, if you want to defend yourselves, like I don't really need any drones. Also, I don't have money for them yet. Maybe I'll use them later, but I like to have my main slot in the middle, the laser or the mining tool right now, until if I ever decide to use drones, because it's just easier to aim right on asteroids, so I don't have to use that right click on the autopilot function to, you know, angle my ship. I just simply press Q and D keys. And I like to use, this is purely personal, but from a combat perspective, EMD for teens, because even though they're slow, if you look at the slugs, they fire 10-kilogram iron slugs at 4,500 meters a second. That's a lot of energy. If you look at the railgun, you can see here that projectile mass 2 kilograms. Only 2. Yes, it has much more fire rate, but it only means that you will waste a lot of mass driver ammo and have to carry that around. Same with EMD 17s, it's a lot less energy when it moves at 3,000 meters a second. Even though it fires faster, this one just has a lot more energy, especially if you overclock it. Like my power consumption is 1,125 instead of the original 750, which is probably even faster, like 66% faster, I believe. So that's a lot of energy, much more than you would get per slug from this thing. So kill efficiency compared to how much ammo you're expending is a lot more. Like I was running the dual projectile magazine, and I thought that was enough. It's just that this time I'm kind of looking for trouble, so I grab more ammo just to, you know, have something to shoot with. But that's purely personal. Like if you would be running 2 autos, you would probably need 10 kilograms if you're looking for trouble instead of 5. And that's yeah, it's something to consider. Like if you learn to lead your shots with the right click, and it's just much more fun to play. Also, another tip: fire for the reactor. Always fire for the reactor. It's no use just simply shooting ammo. Yeah. So right now I use the M350HO thrusters, and 350 kilonewton is my sweet spot with around 120 tons. So I would really recommend these, but also MA 150, because you can overclock it to 300 newtons, if I'm right. Yeah, I believe it was 300 newtons. And even though you have to do a little bit more maintenance, it's still a lot more maneuverable than anything else. And that's where I think really the sweet spot is, if you use the large fuel tanks. If you don't use the large fuel tanks, then you should go for something a bit smaller. Maybe knock it down to 250 kilonewton. Maybe 300, but anything over 350 I've found to be really terrible with the autopilot. Also, when it comes to the engine, I find the sweet spot for the main engine is to be 1,100 newton, or someone roundabouts that. So yeah, 1,125 newton. And I don't really find it, at least in this case, the standard engine, it really takes that. I don't really remember even repairing it that often, probably just as often as thrusters. So yeah, wait, upgrades, let's see. So that's for the main engine. I don't think if there was anything else I was looking to talk about. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about, the MPU. So if you use the Nakamura MPU, you will get 80% mineral efficiency, but also 50% of the H2O that you suck in will be transformed to fuel, which is nice, but 20 kilograms per second. 20. That is so painfully slow. If you fill up your cargo hold, it will take you probably like 10 minutes, if not more, to just sit around and wait for this thing to do its job until you get the full 7 tons that this mineral processing unit is able to hold. But if you use the Mitsubishi, it requires a lot more power, but that's no problem. If you have the big furnace, no problem whatsoever. And also 20 rods to keep your temperature stable, because as soon as your reactor output dips below 150 megawatts with your twin turbines, you will really get a big problem, because your big furnace will cut out and you will simply be dead in the water until your reactor can restart. And this is problematic if you're in combat. So that's why it's something to consider. But you have 100 kilograms a second mineral processing, so that's literally 80% more, or something. I believe 80%. I'm not good at math, but yeah. So I would really recommend something like this. So yeah, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I really hope that you'll learn to fly manual, because that's really where the fun is. Alright guys, good luck to all of you, and see you soon.